Hi everyone, welcome. This worm bin that I'm preparing to check in on appears to have a little unwelcome visitor there, flying insect. I don't know if it's just a single flying insect or are there a bunch. So far I don't really see signs of anything other than that one. Maybe it's just a one-off visitor. Still, I don't want to overreact, but I figure what the heck, a little sprinkling of the Mosquito Dunks keeps the environment a little bit hostile to such creatures, um, making a home out of the place. I was almost certain that these chunks of coffee filter would be gone by this time, because these were at one point holding together as a single coffee filter, whatever, somehow, but I don't know if it was just my rough handling that they got torn like that. But yeah, I somehow thought that the worms would do a little bit more damage. But perhaps the last feeding of watermelon was enough to get them very distracted and all head down into the feeding zone. And maybe that's why the feeding zone indicator remained relatively untouched. It's only been 10 days. So, who knows? Maybe we're still going to run into some leftovers. It's hard to believe that you would find leftovers of watermelon after 10 days. It does seem very unlikely. There's a lot of moisture. It's part of the reason that the plastic coverings were on kind of loose, not pulled out all the way to the edges. The two edges were pulled back, allowing for the material out here on the surface to get dry. Although, you don't have to go very deep before you start hitting a good bit of moisture. We just figured that, with such a huge amount of really damp food going in last time, that we should allow the system a little opportunity to air out and kick off some of its abundant moisture. And I could tell too when I first bought the system over from the shelf, it's heavy. It's got some good weight to it, and that's moisture. I imagine that the leaves that were resting right beneath the watermelon, that got soaked with all the watermelon juices, that stuff's probably about as popular as the watermelon itself. That's what we're going through now, because at the very beginning of the feeding last time, we laid in a whole bunch of leaves. And in came the food, and then on top came even more leaves. We're going to blend all these leaves in once we get to tilling up the outer edges a little bit. But I'm going to open up a nice size hole down here into which we can drop today's feeding. Today we're not giving them watermelon again because the whole carbon copy approach, it was so weird watching. I just scrubbed through the video from last time really quick just to orient myself to what was going on in here. And I was like, okay, blah, 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 whatever. And then I went ahead and I even opened up the video prior, the check-in that came before, and it felt like I was watching almost like the same exact video. From the bedding used, to the foods they were given, to the top coating of leaves they got at the very end. It was like a complete do-over. So today, instead of leaves going in, I'm deviating from that and giving them my prepared bedding. A whole bunch of lovely shredded paper and cardboard with leaves mixed in. Two nice generous handfuls of it. And no watermelon today, but a real nice assortment of other things. And part of that is a day's worth of coffee. And that means we got ourselves a nice replacement feeding zone indicator. So we had that old feeding zone indicator that was resting out on the surface, showing us where we last fed. I think I just managed to locate a couple of its larger fragments. We'll get them over here right beneath the spot where all the yummy foods are going to get put in, and it's probably going to make that stuff pretty much as good as food as well. So I'm sure that those old feeding zone indicators are going to get chewed up as the worms come in to feast on this assortment of potato peels, banana peels, parts of strawberry, and miscellaneous other things. Not a bad feeding. So yeah, coming back after 10 days, walking in on them polishing off what remains of a lovely watermelon feast. I kind of expected some fun worm spotting in today's check-in, and today's check-in definitely did not disappoint. Look at that. Wow. And man, that was a pretty opportune worm spotting right there. And what do we got over here? Oh wow, lots of lovely finished castings that will definitely benefit from getting some of this leafy matter blended into it. I'm sure as much as the worms probably love cruising through that stuff, they'll love it even more as they encounter little fragments of leaves and stuff to nibble on as they pass through. And at this point, we're nearing the return of our coverings here. And I think that it probably is a good idea to follow suit with what we've been doing here a couple check-ins now, which is replacing the coverings in such a way that they're on here a little bit loose around the edges, allowing for the system to lose some of its moisture to evaporation and make it a little bit lighter maybe next time we check in here. Although, you know, at this age, 153 days of age, what was this, feeding 14 going in today, you know, this system's totally in the prime of its life, and high moisture is probably a benefit, but I don't think that there's a lot of harm in just allowing for a little bit of ventilation around the edges, a little bit of dry material to be there on the surface at the end, and I think that that's a good way to leave it again this time, like we've been doing for a couple check-ins now. So just figured let's see what we could do about leaving some of this material here in the bin, and you know, that just reminded me there was a final step I wanted to do before we put the covers on. And it's my leafy matter, which I also similarly use as a hand scrubbing material. So this is probably the better way to get all this stuff off my gloves, back into the worm bins, but look at me. Here I am, getting into the cleanup of stuff, which is so boring, and I don't want to waste your time with that. So before I get back to cleaning things up and putting things away, let me just say thank you. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, as always, please don't forget to leave me a quick thumbs up before you go. That's always really appreciated. And if you haven't done so already, please also consider subscribing to the channel. That's very much appreciated as well. All right, everyone. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Bye now.